The Run Lift Mom podcast is brought to you by my efforts as a Zia Active independent representative and partners Hello Woofy for social media, Red H Nutrition, and Audible. Audible is the newest of this lineup, and if you want to try Audible free, all you've got to do is visit audibletrial.com/runliftmom. Welcome to the Run Lift Mom podcast, where we're talking about running, lifting, and momming, not necessarily in that order. Today, I have got a treat for you. We're going to be squarely in the momming category. Although she likes to run and lift, I have got Elizabeth Cook. As an author and certified life coach, Elizabeth is on a mission to empower you, listener, to embrace self-care in your physical, emotional, and spiritual life. I love this woman because her guidance is really simple, and she recognizes the desire for both success as well as peace and balance in everyone. That is unique. You're going to hear from her. Without further ado, Elizabeth Cook.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here today. So I look forward to it.
I would love it you are a woman that's got a lot of great insight for this audience in terms of mindset. But I'd love for you to first paint the picture to how you became a holistic health coach and, tactically have all this great advice for us in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. So, I became a mom at an early age, as well as starting my career. And very quickly, I realized that I was being asked a lot of questions of how do you do it all? And are you concerned about working and raising your children? And it was a constant theme. And then I was introduced to a book, and then I had my second child. So now we're like into toddler, and she was 6 and the new baby was 1. And I was introduced to The Whole Brain Child by Daniel Siegel. And I started exploring the whole behavioral development and the importance of nurturing and caring and just being tuned into the pillars and the foundation of early childhood. And then my world kind of exploded in regards to researching like what food does to us. So I got into Michael Pollan, and then really it just became a part of me. And so about 10 years in and multiple kids later, I was trying to coach my husband, and he ultimately was like, yada, yada, yada. Okay, Liz, sugar is the devil, right? Like, just joking with me. And I said, well, if I became a certified health coach, would you listen to my advice? Jokingly. And he said yes. So I jumped in and I signed up for Institute of Integrative Nutrition. It was a 1-year course, and it was everything. I mean, it was the last thing I probably needed to be doing with my career full ahead and now 6 children in tow. But it brought me joy. And the question I was continuously asked is, how do you do it? Really centered around, I cared for myself to care for others. And so I got the certification, and then everything about what I learned and just this joy for sharing with others and hopefully providing some insight to others is really what brought me to where I am today and being the life and health coach that I am. So
I love it. I will link to some of the book that you mentioned, Michael Pollan, some of his work. I'll link to that in the show notes. So guests can either, depending on where you're listening, guys, you're either going to click the link that says notes or just swipe up. You'll be able to see some of those resources. But I want to make a note for the listeners who maybe aren't in like the health and wellness field, that the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, this is, you guys, so this is not a registered dietitian. And to be fair, registered dietitians, they're going to work in a clinical setting. They're going to work with your, caregivers, like if you're working with a doctor or something like that. What I really love about the education and the background that you have, Liz, is that it's forward thinking. So you guys, by the time something gets to your dietitian in practice, to be fair, I mean, I know she or he is a smart woman or man, but by the time time they're able to make those recommendations for you, unfortunately, the science is outdated. And so where IIN comes in a little bit differently is that it's still rooted in science. It's rooted in very relevant and time-based science. Would you agree with that?
Yes, very much so. I mean, we explored, the 100 different dietary methods, and really the key principles to the IIN was that we are all bio individuals. So the founding building blocks for IIN was really we have to nurture and address our primary foods, which is our relationships, our spiritual connection, our fulfillment / career, and our movement of our body. And so when those 4 building blocks are really worked with, the next step is the primary foods, and that's what we consume and what we put on our body and around our body. So it really resonated with me, and that's kind of the lessons that I learned and that I look forward to sharing with others. So.
Well, and so listeners, I'm not discrediting the dietitians that I've had on this show. You guys know and love Jenny. I've had several dietitians on this show, but I want you to hear Liz when she's saying, hey, y'all, it's not just food that my expertise in. This is all interconnected. Things being interconnected. We are both busy moms. A lot of folks listening are also busy moms that are like high achievers. Can you speak a little bit to that desire for both success as well as just peace or balance?
When I speak with my peers and really connecting with those around me, I see and I hear that there's trouble achieving this idea of being a mom, working the career, being present, that we have trouble. And I feel like there's this constant message that we are within that life should be easier, or only if it was easier, embracing the no, it's not easy, is finding moments of joy in each hour, right? Day and week, knowing that what we are doing is hard. Yeah. So that's like a message I would love when I hear and I see the stress in my peers' faces is if I could connect with them and just allow them to stop and start breaking down those moments. So, a lot of people ask me, how do you do it all? And that was another thing. Since I traveled a lot in my beginning of my career, and it was like the only question that was asked of me the moment they found out I had children. And I always thought, well, my best answer at the time was one day at a time, because I wasn't sure if they really wanted to know how I did it all. But rather than asking that, it was really like, how do I make it work? I understand, and I'm very intentional of where my joy is and where my best creative flow is. And I take that into each day, and I structure my day around that. And then I delegate or I let go of the rest. And so I really didn't realize I was doing that probably the first 5 years of young mothering, because I was surviving. But as I continued to excel in my career that I'm in, and then continue to have kids, there was something that I was doing that was much different, right? Because I found the question was always asked. So.
I love it. People will have probably heard of this concept, and I love hearing it in practice. It's the 3 Ds, y'all. It's do, dump, or delegate. And I love that you point out, like, if you know you're a morning person, you guys, the do's are going to get done in the morning, and you structure your day around that. If you know that you are a night owl and you knock it out at night, structure those tasks for the evening. I love that you point out that piece, because you can follow the 3 Ds all you want, but if you're doing in the wrong time of day, you might not be as productive as you would like to be.
Exactly. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tell us, so you've experienced this personally, right? Like, you've figured out how to do this. How about the moms that you work with? Why do you think that right? It sounds so easy when somebody's hearing us say, oh, yes, so simple. Why do people struggle with this, though?
Again, I do feel it's the society we live in, and kind of keeping up with the Joneses, right? This idea that we are always going towards something and we need to achieve something instead of this being present and just being. The program is all about is really kind of bringing it back and understanding like who you are as a person, and what those elements of joy in your life, what are your desires, give you permission to want, and then kind of walk you into structuring your day, structuring how you think, creating the right mindset, right? Your growth mindset that you can be and do what you find yourself being pulled towards. But if you're not paying enough attention to what that pull is or where you resonate best in your life, you may never find it. So you're kind of spinning on a hamster wheel.
Right. At the time of this recording, so listeners, I don't know when you're listening, maybe it's a year from when we're recording, but right now we're recording at the end of the coronavirus pandemic in 2020. So things are just now starting to open up. And really popular advice during this pandemic was level up, get a new skill, start a new side hustle. You can tell what I think of that. But I'm reminded of that because a lot of high achieving moms fall into that. So what do you say? What would your advice be? Because you are a life and health coach. What if you had a client that's like, man, I mean, it's the pandemic, everybody else is leveling up, but I'm kind of drowning here. What would your advice to that woman be? Because we don't need a pandemic to feel like that, right, ladies?
Right. So, I mean, one, be flexible. Even though in this really time of distress and where we are sitting in this moment in time is, being able to laugh at yourself, being present, realizing it's hard, right? And then being able to compartmentalize, right? Compartmentalizing your life. And that is key because we still have to show up for the littles. We have to show up for a job, and we have to show up for ourselves, and we have to show up for significant others, and we have to show up for our family, right? But don't be a martyr because we truly are blessed with all of those areas that we do have to show up for. And we have the privilege to be those role models to those people. Find your support network, right? Like right now, I feel in this environment that we're in, it's so important to find out who do you resonate best with and what energy do you need in your life, and really to create those boundaries to eliminate or crowd out, right? Fill your network with those that make you feel good during this time. Know your limits.
Love that. It's good. You said two things there that I just want to make sure that the listener heard, right? And number one, it's that we're blessed. A lot of people listening are wearing different hats, but we are blessed to have the opportunity to fulfill those roles. And then also, sometimes to find your people, you got to figure out who your people aren't. So if there's like an energy, what I hear you saying is if there's like an energy drainer in your network, respectfully limit your contact with them.
Yes.
I love
and
it.
do
it's
it
all
with
about
love.
mindset.
I say this very often. I'm detaching with love. I say that to myself. And then when I find someone consistently sharing this same opinion, I'm like, well, why don't you think about detaching with love? It doesn't have to be permanent. It can be right now. It can be in the future, right? And just this idea that you don't have to end things badly, but just create that boundary.
Detaching with love sounds different from I'm going to cut it off because especially as women, sometimes we feel, even if we know the relationship is toxic, we feel guilty. And detaching with love feels differently when you think about it. So speaking of when you think about it, I mean, that's a mindset thing. You mentioned growth mindset a little bit earlier. You're talking us through some mindset right now. Would you mind just giving us a couple of tips on ways that we can control mindset, that thing between our ears?
So I was reading a book by Carol Dweck, and it was all about the research between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And I had this aha moment where I'm like, this is why I am who I am, is I was raised in an environment where I had a growth mindset, as did my family. So I believed, that my abilities and ultimately my intelligence, that's all relevant, can be developed. And I was always coached and more or less said, like, you can be and do whatever you want, right? And do not be afraid to fail. So that's really a different mindset than some people that really believe like we are who we are. We cannot change. The world is what it is. And we're kind of stuck and we're not looking to maybe improve the processes or how things are happening, just like staying present. So I'm constantly reflecting and setting intentions, and especially when things do not go as they planned. Right. I do get upset for moments. Right. And I be with that. But then I start thinking, okay, what did I learn? How can I grow from this? Why was it uncomfortable? What am I afraid to face? And that's really the mindset that I take into really all my roles. Right. Especially with all the children that I have, they range from, soon to be, they're all changing this year. So 19, 13, 12, 9, 6, and a 2-year-old. So
2 to 19 is wild. The book that you referenced, I'm going to link. It's fantastic. And you've just defined fixed versus, i.e., I have the skills and talents that I'm going to have, and there's nothing we can do about that, versus growth, meaning skills and talents can be developed, and I'm open to getting better.
Yes. And what I find is like, because of this age range, right, I'm like in the midst of it all. And I see that we're the infant now 2-year-old, and where my 19-year-old is, and how important it is to provide this coaching of a growth mindset, because like they're growing like crazy, right? And then 4 or 5, they start or whatever they're observing or, going out into school, like the fixed mindset starts creeping in. So how important it is to continue to coach that, like, no, you're struggling. It's hard. These are difficult things. Those people are mean, but what can we and do, and how can you be better because of it? And just, it's definitely challenging for me to kind of put those hats on, so I'm not really, I feel like a lot of my children are going to be older souls. With the range that we have.
You mentioned the environment that you grew up in, and so it's a really good, funny enough, that book that I am going to link, it was in a book club for my own corporate job, but I learned more about parenting in that book than I did for the role at the time. So great resource there, and it also lends us to a conversation about abundance versus scarcity thinking. Do you mind just defining for listeners kind of what the difference between abundance versus scarcity thinking might be?
Yes. So scarcity really focuses on what we don't have. So, waking up and saying, I don't have the house that I want to, right? I don't have the job I love, right? Where abundant thinking is really this attitude or mindset, right? That focuses on what we do have. So really, like, and it's kind of a big, well, maybe in the crowds we're talking to, is the gratitude journal, right? And waking up and really connecting with what are the things that you have and what are you grateful for. That's that abundance thinking, right? It's not about what you do not have. So just the idea that in the abundance mindset or thinking, right, you're always appreciating and grateful and showing your blessings for what you do have, and not focusing on the other side, right, what we don't have.
And it's human instinct to think about what we don't yet have. I saw an image on social media recently. It was a completed puzzle except one piece. And it illustrated scarcity versus abundance scarcity thinking, scarcity being, I'm missing a piece. Abundance being, I'm almost complete. That puzzle saying those two different things.
Exactly.
But it changes how you look and feel about everything.
Yes. Like, the abundance is there will always be more, right? And then there will scarcity is there will never be enough. And how can you ensure when you're maybe sitting in the scarcity mindset, can you switch it over to that abundance? It's very powerful. So.
I like your point there about if you catch yourself thinking scarcity, to try to move into abundance. I mean, both of us are involved in like direct selling brands. And so there's a real common in that industry. There's a real common in, oh, there's not enough. I need to keep everything that I have, all my resources and my knowledge and my good tricks. If you catch yourself doing that, to move to, there is enough for everybody. If I find something that's working, I'm going to share it with everyone. Not every listener listening right now is in the direct selling space. That's what comes to mind, though, for some of the listeners.
Right.
It's going to be the most familiar. In motherhood, it could be the same, though, right? It's enough for everybody in terms of knowledge and care and just effort that you're putting into the community.
Right. And I feel, another pillar is the importance of ensuring that we mothers fill our cup, right, with that positive energy, ensure that we're caring for ourselves and realizing there will be enough of you to give to others if you're ensuring you're taking care of yourself. And that being on the emotional, the physical, the spiritual side, all three are interconnected.
Kind of putting that oxygen mask on yourself. So you can take care of others.
And one thing, in my corporate job, I find that old school thinking is, harboring information and not wanting to educate, where I found myself in a role where my job, I feel, is to teach everyone and to empower those. And just the vibrancy that I have around my group, like, allows me to show up versus like some of the groups where I see that fixed mindset. It's very difficult for them to be working there. So I've seen it in both worlds, right? The direct, like, you don't want to share, but even in like a corporate environment, how important it is to like give your tools, give your knowledge, mentor, like coach. You never know who's going to be there to support you when you give so much.
So bringing it full circle, guys, if you've got someone in your network that is in that scarcity group, to the degree that you can, it's going to depend on the setting, right? What was the term that you used? You can remove with love, or detach. I like it. We're learning new stuff. You can detach with love from those scarcity thinkers, or if you're like me and you find yourself sometimes getting into that scarcity, you stop yourself, and the verbal cue is, hey, Suze, that is scarcity thinking. And it will make you stop and pause and think about how you can reframe your own thoughts, because we know that thoughts produce feelings, produce action. So if you can control that thinking part of it, your actions will reflect them.
Exactly. And that's, we're the only, species that can literally sit here and think a happy thought and then actually feel a physical connection to that happiness, right? That smile. And then actually seconds later think of a sad thought and then feel it physically, like, where it connects, like in the back of your neck, right? So there's physical connection. So it's very important to stay in that abundance thinking.
Spoken like a true holistic health coach, where you're bringing it all around from our mental well-being to our physical well-being as well. I'm being playful with you, but it's true.
Right.
All right. So are you ready for some rapid fire to wrap this conversation about mindset and showing up for motherhood up?
Yes, I'm ready.
This is unrelated to either, so I just want you to say the first thing that comes to mind. This is just for fun. Our guests have got to hear you show off your professional or passion project side, and now I just want to have some fun with you. So tell me, you are treating yourself, is it ice cream or gelato?
Ice cream.
Always food with women, right? Ice cream. What's your favorite kind of ice cream?
Cookie dough.
Hey, good choice. Good choice. All right. How about hot pink or blush pink?
Blush pink.
Day date or night out?
Day date. That's changed. Day date.
And this is probably less rapid fire, but something I have to ask you, because again, you're a mother from ages 2 to 19. You guys hear that? Do you mind just speaking to the difference in yourself as a mother with your oldest 19 years ago to now with a 2-year-old?
Oh, I tell my 19-year-old all the time, I actually apologize and tell her I've grown so much, and I'm not the same person I was 19 years ago. And I've learned like choosing your battles really matters. And really, there's never anything like, she got a lot more of my quick to snap, quick to get angry, where now I'm like Zen mom, like, so when she observes me, she's like, what? So we've been growing together now in her older age, just realizing like you will grow, so don't stop. And so it's very different, very different. And I love
that. A great argument can be made that she helped you develop into Zen mom, right?
Yes, she did. She's one of my.
Elizabeth Cook, thank you so much for coming on the show. You are, of course, a life and health holistic coach. You also incorporate doTERRA essential oils into your practice where appropriate. Of course, this is an individual thing. So I'm going to put the links to all of those things below, both your coaching as well as doTERRA. You guys know I'm a big fan of integrating a brand that you feel passionate about with a passion project, and like mine's, right? But
Right,
thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you for having me. This was very fun. So thanks for letting me share.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for coming on to the Run Lift Mom podcast. You guys, it is really hard to find a health professional and a coach who sees the need for both success for us high achieving types, as well as peace and balance for any type. We all need that, and she can help you strike the balance between the two. I hope that you will visit Elizabeth. You can either swipe up or click details. I'm going to put all of the details for her company, Integrated Being, and you're going to see especially the Conquering Stress 101 coaching plan. You guys, this is a really good 12-week program. You get bi-monthly videos, workbook exercises, and regular follow-up to keep you accountable in relationships, health, and then priority and time management. It is awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for coming on the show, giving us a peek. And until I get into your earpiece again, remember, for while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. That's from 1 Timothy 4:8, and this has been the Run Lift Mom podcast. Hey, Run Lift Mom listeners, you know I'm the mom of 4 kids under age 5, and therefore I am always looking for ways to work smart, not hard. Anchor is the smartest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you why. First of all, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, but Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you, so then it can be heard on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a whole lot more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It is quite literally everything you need all in one place. And y'all, it's free. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you for listening to the Run Lift Mom podcast. What started as a passion project in February 2019 now has over 60,000 downloads and over 400 listens each day. It is amazing, and I know it is because of you, dear listener. I want to thank you for your ratings, reviews, and subscriptions. All you have to do is take a screenshot of your rating or your subscription. If you've already done it, clearly this is fair game. Take a screenshot and go to newreleasewednesday.com. That's newreleasewednesday.com. That's going to put you in a drawing for a free Zaya Active outfit, top and bottom piece, valued at over $100. Newreleasewednesday.com. Show me where you have rated and subscribed, and I'm going to get you in that drawing. Thank you so much for making this passion project possible. Hey, Run Lift Mom listeners, if you are here for business or entrepreneur type topics, I want to let you know I have a new show. It's called Serve Then Sell, and it's available on 10 different channels, including Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. The idea here is not to just lump in the business topics with running, lifting, and momming. I want to create more of a separation. I hope you will come hang out with me over there. Again, the name of the show is called Serve Then Sell. Enter that into any search box and you're going to see it come right up. We'll be running, lifting, and momming over here. I hope you'll still hang out. Check in over there if it will be a blessing for you.